High blood pressure after 60? The 10 worst breakfast mistakes seniors make every morning. High blood pressure is often called the silent killer, not because it's rare, not because it's mysterious, but because it can quietly damage the body for years before a person notices anything is wrong. The heart works harder. The arteries become less flexible. The risk of heart attack, stroke, kidney disease, and memory problems slowly increases. And here's what makes it even more concerning. Some of the habits that may be affecting your blood pressure the most happen during the first hour of your day. Before lunch, before errands, before you've even fully woken up. Think about your morning routine for a moment. Do you skip breakfast because you're not hungry? Do you grab something quick because you're in a rush? Do you start your day with fruit juice, coffee, cereal, or a breakfast sandwich? And here's the bigger question. Could one of your favorite breakfast habits be making it harder for your blood pressure to stay under control? Most people assume that managing blood pressure is all about avoiding salty foods at dinner. Others think it's mainly about medication, but breakfast often gets overlooked. That's a mistake. Because what you eat first thing in the morning can influence your energy, your blood sugar, your hunger levels, and even how your cardiovascular system performs throughout the rest of the day. The surprising truth is that some breakfast foods that look healthy on the surface may actually be working against your heart. Others contain hidden sodium. Some are packed with sugar. And a few mistakes have become so common that millions of adults repeat them every single morning without ever questioning them. The good news? Most of these mistakes are easy to fix once you know what they are. And the changes don't have to be extreme. You don't need expensive supplements, you don't need a complicated diet, and you certainly don't need to give up every food you enjoy. Sometimes a few small adjustments can make a bigger difference than people realize. In today's video, we're counting down the 10 worst breakfast mistakes adults over 60 make when it comes to blood pressure and heart health. Some of these mistakes may surprise you. One of them is probably sitting in kitchens all across America right now. And the number one mistake may be doing more damage than anything else on the breakfast table. Before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to join our community dedicated to healthy aging, nutrition, and wellness. And while you're watching, let us know in the comments. What did you have for breakfast this morning? Now let's begin with mistake number 10. Mistake number 10. Skipping breakfast completely. One of the most common breakfast mistakes adults over 60 make is also one of the simplest. Skipping breakfast altogether. At first glance, it may not seem like a problem. In fact, some people intentionally skip breakfast because they're trying to lose weight. Others simply aren't hungry in the morning. And many people have followed the same routine for so many years that they never stop to think about it. A cup of coffee, maybe a glass of water. And that's it until lunchtime. But here's the problem. After a full night of sleep, your body has already gone many hours without food. During that time, it continues using energy to keep your heart beating, your lungs breathing, and your organs functioning. By morning, your body is ready to refuel. When breakfast is skipped, several things can happen. First, hunger tends to build throughout the morning. And when people become extremely hungry, they often make poorer food choices later in the day. A healthy lunch suddenly becomes a fast food meal. A small snack turns into a bag of chips. Portion sizes grow larger. And sodium intake often increases without people even realizing it. There's another issue many adults experience. Energy levels become less stable. You may feel fine at first, but by mid-morning, fatigue starts creeping in. Concentration becomes harder. You feel sluggish, and some people find themselves reaching for sugary snacks simply to get through the day. For adults over 60, this pattern can become especially problematic. The body becomes less efficient at regulating blood sugar compared to when we were younger. That means long periods without eating can sometimes create bigger swings in hunger and energy. Now, this doesn't mean breakfast needs to be large. You don't need a giant meal. Even something simple can help. A bowl of oatmeal, a piece of fruit with yogurt, a handful of nuts, some eggs, and whole grain toast. The goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. Think of breakfast as the first opportunity to support your heart each day. Skipping it occasionally probably won't cause major problems, but making it a daily habit may work against your long-term health goals. That's why skipping breakfast completely earns the number 10 spot on our list. And the next mistake is something millions of people believe is healthy, even though it may be delivering far more sugar than they realize. Mistake number 9, drinking fruit juice instead of eating whole fruit. This mistake surprises a lot of people. After all, fruit juice sounds healthy. The commercials show fresh oranges, juicy apples, and colorful fruits being squeezed into a glass. The packaging often uses words like natural, pure, or made from real fruit. So it must be good for you, right? Not necessarily. The problem isn't the fruit itself. The problem is what happens when fruit is turned into juice. When you eat a whole orange, apple, or pear, you're getting fiber, along with the natural sugars. That fiber slows digestion and helps your body absorb sugar more gradually. As a result, you stay full longer and experience a steadier source of energy. Juice works differently. Most of the fiber has been removed. What remains is a concentrated source of natural sugar that enters the bloodstream much more quickly. In some cases, a single glass of juice may contain the sugar from several pieces of fruit. The surprising part is that most people could never sit down and eat 4 oranges at once. But drinking the juice from 4 oranges takes only a few minutes. That's why juice often feels light, while delivering far more sugar than people realize. For adults over 60, this matters. Large blood sugar spikes can contribute to increased hunger, energy crashes, weight gain, and other metabolic problems that may indirectly affect cardiovascular health. And here's another thing. Juice doesn't satisfy hunger the same way whole fruit does. You can drink a large glass of juice and still feel hungry shortly afterward. But eat an apple or an orange, and you'll often feel much more satisfied. Now, this doesn't mean you should avoid fruit. Quite the opposite. Whole fruits remain one of the healthiest foods you can eat. They're packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and fiber that support overall health. The simple solution is to choose the fruit itself more often than the juice. It's a small change that can make a surprisingly big difference over time. That's why drinking fruit juice instead of eating whole fruit comes in at number 9 on our list. And the next mistake hides inside one of the most popular healthy breakfasts in America. Mistake number 8. Choosing flavored instant oatmeal instead of plain oatmeal. Oatmeal has long been considered one of the healthiest breakfast foods available, and in many ways, it deserves that reputation. Oats contain fiber, support healthy cholesterol levels, and can help you stay full longer than many processed breakfast foods. But here's where many people go wrong. They're not eating plain oatmeal. They're eating flavored instant oatmeal. At first glance, the difference doesn't seem important. One packet says maple brown sugar, another says apples and cinnamon. Some promise extra flavor, extra nutrition, or even heart health benefits. But if you look closely at the nutrition label, you may find something surprising. Many flavored oatmeal packets contain a significant amount of added sugar. Some contain enough sugar to turn what should be a healthy breakfast into something much closer to a dessert. And that's where the problem begins. When large amounts of sugar enter the bloodstream early in the morning, blood sugar levels can rise quickly. At first, you may feel energized, but a few hours later, that energy often disappears. Hunger returns, cravings begin, and many people find themselves reaching for snacks long before lunchtime. There's another issue. Instant oatmeal is usually more processed than traditional oats. Because it's designed to cook quickly, the body often digests it more rapidly. That means it may not keep you satisfied for as long. Now, this doesn't mean oatmeal is bad. Far from it. The solution is simple. Choose plain oatmeal whenever possible. Then add your own flavor. Fresh berries, sliced bananas, a sprinkle of cinnamon, a few walnuts or almonds. Not only will you reduce added sugar, but you'll also gain extra fiber, nutrients, and healthy fats. Think of plain oatmeal as a blank canvas. You control what goes into it. And that's almost always a better option than letting a food manufacturer decide for you. That's why choosing flavored instant oatmeal instead of plain oatmeal earns the number 8 spot on our list. And the mistake at number 7 is something millions of Americans have been eating for breakfast for decades without realizing how much sodium it may be adding to their day. Mistake number 7. Eating processed breakfast meats every morning. For many people, breakfast simply doesn't feel complete without bacon, sausage, ham, or other breakfast meats. The smell alone can bring back memories of family breakfasts, weekend mornings, and favorite routines that have lasted for decades. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with enjoying these foods once in a while. The problem starts when they become an everyday habit. Many adults eat processed breakfast meats almost automatically. They've done it for years, sometimes for their entire lives. So it's easy to overlook what's actually inside them. The biggest concern is sodium. Most processed meats contain surprisingly large amounts of salt. Manufacturers use sodium to improve flavor, preserve freshness, and extend shelf life. Unfortunately, your blood vessels don't care why the sodium is there. They only respond to how much you're consuming. When sodium intake becomes too high, the body begins holding on to extra water. That extra fluid increases the amount of pressure inside the circulatory system. And over time, that can make blood pressure more difficult to manage. For adults over 60, this becomes even more important. As we age, our arteries naturally become less flexible. The heart often has to work harder than it did years ago. Adding excessive sodium on top of that creates an extra burden the body doesn't need. But sodium isn't the only issue. Many processed breakfast meats are also high in saturated fat and calories. When eaten regularly, they may contribute to weight gain and other cardiovascular risk factors. Now, this doesn't mean you need to swear off bacon forever. A healthy lifestyle isn't about perfection, it's about balance. Instead of making processed meats the centerpiece of every breakfast, consider rotating in other protein sources like eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, nuts, or beans. Even a few small changes each week can make a meaningful difference over time. Think of bacon and sausage as occasional treats rather than daily staples. Your heart will likely thank you for it. That's why eating processed breakfast meats every morning earns the number 7 spot on our list. And the mistake at number 6 may be even more common because millions of people think they're eating healthy when they're actually setting themselves up for hunger just a few hours later. Mistake number 6. Eating a breakfast that contains almost no protein. This is one of the most overlooked breakfast mistakes adults over 60 make. And the surprising part is that many people believe they're eating healthy when it's happening. A bowl of cereal, a piece of toast with jam, a muffin, a banana, a glass of juice. None of these foods are necessarily bad on their own. The problem is that they often provide very little protein. And after age 60, protein becomes more important than ever. As we get older, our bodies naturally begin losing muscle mass. This gradual process can affect strength, balance, mobility, and overall quality of life. Protein helps support muscle maintenance, which is one reason nutrition experts often encourage older adults to include protein throughout the day. But protein does something else that's equally important. It helps keep you full. When breakfast lacks protein, hunger tends to return much sooner. You may feel satisfied for an hour or two. Then suddenly, you're looking for a snack. A cookie, a pastry, a handful of crackers. Something to boost your energy until lunch. Unfortunately, many of those snack foods are loaded with sugar, sodium, or unhealthy fats. Over time, this cycle can contribute to weight gain and make heart health more difficult to manage. Let's compare two breakfasts. The first is a muffin and a glass of juice. The second is Greek yogurt with berries and a handful of nuts. The second meal provides significantly more protein and tends to keep people satisfied much longer. Energy stays steadier, cravings are reduced, and there's less temptation to snack throughout the morning. The good news is that adding protein doesn't have to be complicated. Eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, nuts, seeds, beans. Even small amounts can make a noticeable difference. A simple question can help guide your morning choices. Where is my protein coming from? If the answer is nowhere, your breakfast may not be supporting your health as much as you think. That's why eating a breakfast that contains almost no protein earns the number 6 spot on our list. And now we're entering the top 5, where the mistakes become even more common, and potentially even more damaging to your blood pressure. Mistake number 5. Loading up on sugary breakfast cereals. Now we've reached the top 5, and this mistake has been hiding in kitchens across America for decades. Breakfast cereal. Many people grew up believing cereal was one of the healthiest ways to start the day. The commercials showed active families, healthy-looking ingredients, pictures of grains, fruit, and vitamins on the box. It seemed like the perfect breakfast. But not all cereals are created equal. In fact, many popular cereals contain surprisingly large amounts of added sugar. Some contain more sugar than people realize they're consuming in an entire morning. The problem is that sugary cereals digest very quickly. They provide a fast burst of energy at first, but that energy rarely lasts. A few hours later, many people experience the familiar crash. They feel hungry again, their concentration drops, and cravings start to appear. That's when the search for snacks begins. A cookie, a pastry, a candy bar, something quick to restore energy. Unfortunately, this pattern often repeats itself day after day. For adults over 60, maintaining stable energy and healthy eating habits becomes increasingly important. Large swings in blood sugar can make it harder to control appetite and maintain a healthy weight. And excess weight is one of the factors most strongly associated with elevated blood pressure. Now, this doesn't mean every cereal is unhealthy. Some cereals are high in fiber and contain very little added sugar. The key is learning to read the label. Look for options with more fiber and less sugar. Even better, pair cereal with a source of protein such as Greek yogurt, milk, nuts, or seeds. That simple addition can help slow digestion and keep you satisfied longer. The next time you pick up a cereal box, don't just read the front. Turn it around and check what's actually inside. You may be surprised by what you find. That's why loading up on sugary breakfast cereals earns the number 5 spot on our list. And the mistake at number 4 is something many people buy because it's convenient, never realizing how much hidden sodium they're consuming before the day has even begun. Mistake number 4, relying on frozen breakfast sandwiches and convenience foods. In today's busy world, convenience has become a major part of breakfast. Many people simply don't have the time or the desire to cook every morning. So they reach for something quick. A frozen breakfast sandwich, a microwavable breakfast bowl, a packaged breakfast burrito, a ready-made biscuit sandwich from the freezer. It feels like a practical solution. Just heat it up and eat. But here's what many people don't realize. Convenience often comes with a hidden cost, and that cost is usually sodium. Food manufacturers rely heavily on sodium to preserve flavor and extend shelf life. As a result, many frozen breakfast products contain surprisingly high amounts of salt, sometimes far more than people expect. The challenge is that these foods don't always taste extremely salty, so it's easy to underestimate how much sodium you're actually consuming. For someone trying to manage blood pressure, that can become a serious problem. A single frozen breakfast sandwich may contain several hundred milligrams of sodium. Pair it with another processed food later in the day, and sodium intake can quickly climb higher than recommended. But sodium isn't the only concern. Many convenience breakfasts are also highly processed. They often contain refined carbohydrates added sugars, preservatives, and unhealthy fats, designed to improve taste and texture. Unfortunately, those ingredients may not be doing your heart any favors. Now, this doesn't mean you can never eat a frozen breakfast. Life gets busy. Everyone needs convenient options sometimes. The key is making them the exception rather than the rule. Whenever possible, choose simple foods that require minimal processing. Eggs, oatmeal, fruit, Greek yogurt, whole grain toast. These foods give you more control over what you're putting into your body. Remember, convenience today shouldn't create health problems tomorrow. That's why relying on frozen breakfast sandwiches and convenience foods earns the number 4 spot on our list. And the mistake at number 3 may be hiding inside your favorite morning drink. Mistake number 3, skipping breakfast or eating too late in the morning. Another common mistake that many people don't even think about is simply not eating breakfast at the right time. Some people skip breakfast completely, not because they're trying to be healthy, but because they're not hungry in the morning, or they're rushing, or they think it will help them lose weight. Others delay breakfast until mid-morning or even closer to lunch. Just coffee first, and nothing else. At first, this might not seem like a big issue, but over time, your body starts to feel it. When you go too long without food after waking up, your body is essentially starting the day in a stressed state. Blood sugar can become unstable, energy levels drop, and the body may respond by releasing stress hormones like cortisol. For older adults, especially those managing heart health or blood pressure, this pattern can become even more important. Because instead of a steady, balanced start, the body is forced to catch up later in the day. And that often leads to something very common: overeating at lunch, cravings for salty or sugary foods, or relying on quick, processed snacks just to get through the morning. It becomes a cycle. A skipped breakfast leads to poor choices later, and those choices affect overall heart health more than people realize. But here's the important part. Breakfast doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be complicated, and it definitely doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be consistent. Something simple that gives your body steady energy. A bowl of oatmeal, a boiled egg with fruit, a small serving of yogurt with nuts, even whole grain toast with peanut butter. Nothing extreme, just enough to tell your body, I'm awake, I'm fueled, I'm stable. Because the goal isn't just eating breakfast, it's starting your day in a way that supports your heart instead of stressing it. And that's why skipping breakfast, or delaying it too long, takes the number 3 spot on our list. But the next mistake is even more surprising, because it hides inside something millions of people drink every single morning. Mistake number 2, relying on flavored coffee drinks and sugary morning beverages. For many people, the morning doesn't really start until they've had their first drink: coffee, tea, or sometimes something much sweeter. A flavored latte, a bottled iced coffee, a healthy smoothie from a store, or even fruit juice, thinking it's a good start to the day. At first glance, these drinks don't seem dangerous. They feel light, refreshing, even energizing. But what most people don't realize is how quickly sugar can add up in these morning beverages. Many flavored coffee drinks contain more sugar than a dessert, sometimes without people even noticing, because the sweetness is masked by milk, syrup, or flavoring. And when sugar enters the body quickly like this in the morning, it can cause a rapid spike in blood glucose, followed by a crash. That crash often shows up as fatigue, irritability, or cravings just a couple of hours later. So instead of steady morning energy, the body ends up on a roller coaster. Up, then down, then reaching for more food or more caffeine. And over time, this pattern can put extra stress on metabolism and cardiovascular health, especially for older adults who are already managing blood pressure or blood sugar concerns. But sugar isn't the only issue here. Some of these drinks also contain hidden fats, artificial flavors, and additives designed purely to enhance taste, not health. Even fruit juice, which seems natural, can be surprisingly high in concentrated sugar without the fiber that whole fruit provides. Now, this doesn't mean you have to give up coffee or tea. It simply means being more aware of what's actually inside your cup. A plain black coffee, unsweetened tea, or coffee with minimal added sugar. These small adjustments can make a significant difference over time, because the goal isn't to eliminate enjoyment. It's to avoid starting your day with a hidden sugar overload. And that is why flavored coffee drinks and sugary morning beverages take the number 2 spot on our list. But the final mistake is the one most people never connect to their heart health at all. Mistake number 1, starting the day without hydration. This is the mistake almost no one thinks about, because it feels too simple to matter. No sugar, no sodium, no processed food, just water. Or rather, the lack of it. After 6 to 8 hours of sleep, your body wakes up naturally dehydrated. You haven't had fluids all night. But many people still start their morning without drinking a single glass of water. Instead, they go straight to coffee, or skip fluids entirely until later in the day. At first, it doesn't feel like a problem. But inside the body, something very important is happening. Blood becomes slightly more concentrated when you're dehydrated. The heart has to work a bit harder to circulate it, and energy levels can feel lower than they should be. For someone already concerned about blood pressure or heart health, this small morning habit can quietly add unnecessary strain over time. What makes it even more important is how easy it is to fix. No expensive supplements, no complicated diet changes, just water. A simple glass in the morning can help rehydrate the body, support circulation, and gently wake up the system before anything else enters your body. Some people even find that when they start with water first, their digestion improves, their energy feels more stable, and they naturally make better food choices afterward. Because hydration doesn't just affect the body, it affects how you feel, think, and respond throughout the day. And yet, it's often completely ignored. That's why this simple habit, starting your day without proper hydration, takes the number 1 spot on our list of morning mistakes affecting heart health. Conclusion. If you look at all 5 mistakes together, a clear pattern starts to appear. It's not usually one big decision that affects your health. It's the small morning habits, repeated every single day, quietly shaping your long-term heart health over time. The good news is this: you don't need perfection. You don't need to eliminate everything overnight. You just need awareness and small, consistent improvements. Because your morning doesn't just start your day, it sets the rhythm for everything that follows. And now the question becomes, what will your next morning look like?